Ooh, everybody, hello and welcome to the first precursor live stream with myself, Russell, and my co-founder here, Chris. How are you today, Chris?
I'm doing well. How's everybody doing? How you doing, Russell?
I'm doing great. Just getting everything buckled up with our with our streaming. Hopefully, everyone can hear us and everything is going well. If you can, let us know. Make sure that we can you can hear us. There's no echo. There's no craziness going on. It's always fun setting these up from the first time. So I'm sure the next time around will be much more
A
smooth.
little
But for now, I think we're good, man. I think we're good.
good.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's half the
we'll
battle, I guess.
yeah. Well, the two of us will have a conversation if nobody else. But yeah, man. So I'm super psyched. It's our brand new live stream. We are going to be doing this every single week on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern
Yep.
Standard Time, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about all sorts of different AI related topics, and talking about Precursor and how we are helping users build smarter, better apps faster using AI planning and structured documentation to make your apps that much better. Um, so yeah, today we have a really cool topic. Do you want to share that topic, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a big one that, I've always tried to do so much research around this because I think it's super important, and that's going to be cursor rules. Like, they're
Yeah.
extremely valuable, but highly underrated. I just don't see a lot of people talking about them, or maybe everybody just knows about it. We're the dum-dums out in
I,
the rain about it.
I don't know. I feel like, honestly, I feel like cursor rules are one of the sort of advanced features of cursor that are less known because I remember when I first, hey, hey, Beck, sound is good, apparently. So thank
Perfect.
you.
Thanks,
Um,
Beck.
I remember when I first started using cursor. I just was like, okay, what is this thing? How do I set up settings? Like, it was very similar to VS Code. So, actually coding itself, like manually coding, who does that anymore? But manually
Pretty much.
coding was very simple. But then, like, when it came to the more advanced features, it was a lot of just test, see what happens, hope for the best, cross my fingers. And a lot of times I was either doing tab completions or just throwing stuff in the chat and then watching the magic happen. But I didn't know I had the power to sort of set up guardrails and instruct Cursor to be better at what it does, right?
Yeah,
Uh, did you have the same experience? Was that like,
I did. Well, so I didn't use the tab completions at all. I literally
hmm,
just jumped in like full head first, and
full
I
on
just went
vibes?
straight. I just went straight to agent mode, didn't even know, and it was like accept all. I was like, sure, whatever. And it was like, you
Yeah.
always want to, and I'm like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
And like I would just let it go, and then I'm like, well, this is terrible. Like this
Yeah.
whole like I don't even know what this made. It doesn't work. It's all red, like it's screaming at me. Like so I gave up on it actually for a couple weeks because I just was like, okay, all this hype is BS. Like I have no idea what's going on here. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, cursor rules were definitely a game changer when it came to actually using cursor. So,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, that's sort of what spawned Precursor, right? And like our conversation after the struggles that you had when you first tried Cursor, because to give you guys a little bit of background about Chris and I, I'm a full stack web developer. Chris is a principal engineer. And we both met at React Miami, repping the shirt
represent it, represent.
representing. And I got some awesome like vibe coding glasses from Vercel there. And when I first met Chris, I was like, dude, are you using Cursor? And he's like, I know about it, but I haven't really played with it. And I was like, bro, you got to try this. Like, it, it will save you so much time. And at first, I think you were a little hesitant. You're like, yeah, I
I
don't
was. I
know.
was a I was a purist. I was a
Yeah.
purist and I was like, as long as I stay true to it, like, this whole wave, like I'll be good. And then I was like, we're just watching people like crush these apps. Like and they look great and they work great. Like
Hmm.
there's some oddities if you don't know what you're doing, but I was like, okay, I'm a pretty good engineer. Like if I can be paired up with AI and like know what's going on and like tweak things and say things the right way, I was like, I think I could also crush this. So,
Yeah, and I felt sort of the same way when I first started using Cursor. I think any, software developer, like technical developer, feels the same way when they first try Cursor, which is like it's kind of like cheating. You're like,
yeah,
like how am I gonna let some AI take over and just write all this code?
right.
And I definitely felt that in the beginning. I was like, okay, I'm definitely cheating. This is not good. And then came the moment of sort of realization, which I don't like this feeling, but it's a reality that we all kind of live with in different ways in life, which is like, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
no, absolutely.
so I was like, all right, I might as well try it and see what happens. And then I kind of just fell in love with it because I was like, okay, one, I have the ability, like, and I have the knowledge to understand all of the technical aspects of coding, like, and I still love that part, but I don't have to do the tedious stuff of like, I love front end development. I know you know that, Chris, but a lot of that is like back and forth coding where you're like, how about corner radius 20 pixels? How about,
Right.
and then you're like,
Yeah,
look at
like
it and you're like, oh, how about 25? And it's just tedious, right?
very
So
tedious.
yeah, it was nice to be able to just be like, I want it to look like this, and then it would just pump out something and write really fast code, and then I can go back and edit it.
And
Um,
just clean it up. And I think that's the most important part. It's like going back, cleaning up, like removing the like 45,000 lines of comments that it leaves on everything. But
yeah.
I will, I'm kind of leaning towards the side of like comments really aren't a horrible thing now because it's like
Hmm.
extra, it's like free context that you're able to
Totally.
give cursor now, right? But
Totally.
I had the same experience. Like, when I started using cursor, I actually like fell back in love with building again. Like I went through a
Yeah.
period where it was just like, I know how to do it. I can build it, but whatever. But it was like once I was like actually like building again with cursor, like it was love at first sight again. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, I
what I
do
got.
remember before that though, when you first told me you were going to try Cursor and you're like, all right, I'm going to go build this app. And I was like, sweet, because you're an Angular developer. I'm a React Next.js developer. And you're like, I want to start learning more of React and Next.js. So I was like, cool, go and try Cursor. And you were like all on board because you're like, I can learn how to do this at the same time that I'm coding because if you ask it, it'll tell you exactly what it's doing, which is another thing that I think is just amazing about Cursor and these AI assisted coding environments. But I remember though we had a phone call. You had
Mm,
you had tried using Cursor and you called me up and I was like, hey, what's up, buddy? And you're like, I'm ready to throw my laptop through the wall. And I was like,
it was.
okay.
It was absurdly frustrating. And I think I know I'm not the only one because it was just it was just not working for the life of me. It would just not work. Like anything I
Yeah.
was doing, like it just looked like shit. It all the code was all over the place. Like I don't even know. You know what I felt like? I felt like a toddler. You gave a toddler spaghetti and you just literally walked away for a second and then you come back and literally the bowl's on their head or something. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? There's just like it was so bad. And I was just, I mean, I remember I was like, I can't deal with like this is stupid. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I mean, you
I
gave me probably some of the best advice.
yeah, I mean I that exact experience happened to me and I actually just commented on a post in Facebook earlier today with somebody who's had the same experience where they're like, how do I stop Cursor from just like making a mess of my code? Like they're basically saying I have to keep going back, restoring checkpoints. Things work 1 second and they don't the next. And that was the same exact issue that I had when I first started. And so I gave you the advice that, I learned along the way, which is you have to create structure to the to your project before you actually like start building, right? And that could be
Yep.
in a lot of different ways. That could be with a PRD or development documents. I know when I first started, I sort of used like three different documents. I had like a PRD document, like a product requirements document that just outlined like what am I building. I used a style guide which explained like what are the styles I want to apply to this. And
Which is a big one. The style guide is
yeah,
actually a really big one that was night and day when it came
yeah,
to building UI, like giving it a style guide, giving it like having it explain in that style guide like examples of other like giving a vision model, to like screenshots of like designs you like and have it explain it and put it in those design doc and have like an actual theme and color. Like it made a huge difference. It was night and day. I'll have to find
yeah.
that picture. I don't have it, but you know the
Well,
one
I
I'm talking about
remember,
with like,
yeah, you sent me like two different screenshots. You're like, yo, check this out, before and after. And I was like, yo, that is insane.
yeah,
Because it is,
yeah,
I mean, you're basically telling it like, how do you make it look, right? And then sticking to that instead of like each time you prompt, it's like, oh, just make up some assumption about what you want, you know? Um,
exactly.
and the last document that I would use would be like a checklist, right? Like a development checklist, what to do first, what to do second, what to do third. And
Yeah,
those three things I think made a huge difference. But to get back to like our topic today, the the secret sauce I think to actually developing in Cursor is implementing a Cursor rule set, or Cursor rules, right? And so um, Cursor rules are basically a way where you can tell Cursor what it can and cannot do and how to do the things that it's doing, right? Because one of the things that AI is really good at doing is just appeasing, right? It's like, yes, I will
hmm,
do that, sure, right? But it doesn't always ask you for extra information. It doesn't always have all of the context it needs. It doesn't always like just follow exactly what you're thinking because in our head, we just have all this assumed context. I know we've talked about this
right.
before, right? Like we're sitting in a chair, we're on a live stream. There's some assumed context here of like, how do we act on a live stream? I should look at the camera or I should speak at a
Right.
certain volume or whatever. And we assume that AI has this, but it doesn't, right? And
It
so,
really doesn't. Yeah.
yeah. So,
And I
like,
know
yeah.
that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go, please.
No, I was just going to say, and the other thing too that's huge with, and I think a lot of people don't know, is that LLMs are actually stateless. So when you
Hmm.
are feeding these prompts, it's actually sending that entire chat thread to like reprime the AI model to then figure out exactly what you were talking about and then answer or give you an answer for your last prompt now. So you're essentially like having to give it everything all at once again, analyze and then give you that answer. And
Yeah.
with yeah, go ahead now.
I
Sorry, I
think,
didn't mean to cut you off.
no, I think that's a great point because I think a lot of people don't understand that. I didn't really get the full implication of that until maybe a couple of months ago. So, like, when you go on something like AI, OpenAI, like ChatGPT or Claude or any of these like chatbots, you may not realize this, but there's a reason why they talk about these context windows so frequently, like how many tokens are in this context window. What that means is how many tokens can one prompt process at a time, right? Because every
Yep.
time that you write a new message into ChatGPT, let's say, it's feeding everything above that as well. Like your entire chat conversation above that goes into that prompt. And so that prompt window is really important. Like if I have a 10,000 token prompt window, the most number of tokens that can go into that are 10,000. Anything before that is just
Hmm.
stripped, like completely off, right? It's trimmed off that conversation. So then you start talking about like, these larger context windows. And when we assume things like, looking at a entire code base, right? Like there are code bases of millions of lines of code. If you think about huge applications,
Yep.
you can't fit all that in like a prompt, right? You can't fit all of the code for
No.
Facebook into a single prompt. So when
You could try.
you could try, but you wouldn't get all of it, right? And
Right.
so what I think where a lot of people struggle when they get to more complex applications. If you're building like a to-do list app or something very basic, the context windows can, handle a lot of that usually. But when you start building more complex applications, the AI models that are inside of Cursor or any of these other AI code assisted code environments, they can't handle these huge context windows, right? They can't just look at every line of code in the code base every time you prompt it. You
Yeah.
need to sort of instruct them. And so that's why I think cursor rules are just so powerful because they basically say, hey, when you're in this area, like look for this or do this. And so I guess we should explain sort of a little bit more in depth of like, okay, we understand cursor rules are sort of like guardrails to like telling the AI like what it can and cannot do. So how, if you wouldn't mind, Chris, explain like a little bit
Mhm.
about like how somebody goes about formatting these, where in your code base, like your file structure, folder structure, would you put these cursor rules, and then like how do you actually write them? Like what does that look like? Is it
Yeah,
code
no,
or is it like
absolutely. I mean,
text?
I think we can probably like share too, to help like if we pull up the documentation, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, to give like an overview, like you're gonna have a dot cursor folder that you're gonna be creating in your project. And
Hmm.
within that cursor folder, you're gonna have another folder, which seems a little silly, but it's gonna be a rules folder. And then within that rules folder, that's where you can literally have all of these individual files, and
Yeah.
these files are going to be in a very specific format or like a file structure. It's going to be a .mdc, which is
Hmm.
basically a markdown file, a .md file, but just with some extra context in there. So I know like with a .mdc, you're going to have some other like a description. You're going to have a always apply, and I think it's like an
Hmm.
agent apply and like manual apply on these different set of rules.
Yeah.
So I know you have the docs open and everything in here,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really like it's hard because you never know like what should be a rule or like
Hmm.
how do you even write these rules. So you want to start off with like giving it a really good description because that's how cursor is actually going to know which rule to grab it's actually going to analyze these sets of rules based on the description and be like which one should I actually follow based on the description that you give it there. And then also
Yeah.
it's going to look if you should always apply auto attach, agent requested, manual, all that good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I do have the docs open, and you can find these. These are the cursor docs, and you can find these at docs.cursor.com and /en/context/rules. And there are different types of rules that you can apply, but in general, you're talking about project rules. So these are project specific. So these are like specifically for the code base that you're working in, right? You can make global
Hmm.
rules, which they call user rules. And I'll get to those in a second, but I think the most relevant ones for now are project rules, right? And so this is inside a hidden folder that exists just at the top level inside your code base. So it's a dot cursor/rules. And then you can create multiple of these. And one of the things that I think is important here is like they talk about making these shorter, right? Like there are some
Yep.
recommendations here, I think at the bottom, where they talk about like some rule, like best practices. So keep rules under 500 lines. So you don't want them to be super long. Split large rules into multiple composable rules. Provide concrete examples or reference files. Avoid vague guidance. Write rules with clear internal docs. Or like clear internal docs, and reuse rules when repeating prompts in chat. So basically you want these to be sort of like chunked out based on what you're doing. And I think this is one of the coolest features of this, right? Is that you can have project wide rules that you just put like sort of at the top level inside your project. And then you can also specify rules for certain parts of your code base. So I'm, a Next.js developer. So typically with like modern Next.js, you're working in either the app folder for a lot of front end stuff or the API folder for a lot of back end stuff. And so you can actually put in there, your own dot cursor rules in each section of that, um, so that your AI automatically knows to like reference these in those parts. And then I think you did a great job like outlining exactly what goes into this, right? You have a description, which is going to be just something that the AI can interpret of like understanding what this rule is doing or what it's for, right? So like
Hmm.
server boilerplate, and then when to apply it, right? So should it always be applied, or should it be included when files matching the global pattern are referenced? So you can put global patterns in here as well. Or do you want it agent reference, right? So it's available to the AI to decide when to use it, or do you want it just manually, which is when you like tag it? So you're actually manually tagging that rule name. And this is like such a powerful thing, right? Because you can imagine, we talked about this style guide where, I can specify exactly what styles I want to use. And then all I have to do is like in this cursor rule in plain text, I can just write always reference the style guide, and I can actually tag it right here, like something like that, where I can say always reference this style guide when you're building new like UI components or something like that. And then I can just take
Yeah.
this rule and throw it like in my app folder, right? In the front
Yeah.
end folder. So it's like anytime, or in my components folder if I want it to be like for components. So anytime cursor goes to like work on a component, it just knows like, hey, this is what I should do. And I can apply, always attach if I want to. Um,
Well, and that's the nice thing about it because, the thing with these cursor rules too, they are actually getting primed with the prompt within that
mhm.
chat thread. So it's like it's basically like automatic context that you're just giving so you as the user don't have to constantly remind it. So it's like when you do the chat thread, it's going to
Yeah,
grab this cursor rule, send it off for you. So now you don't even have to worry about it. So that's why when you're working like with the design, saying, hey, when I am working on a UI component, always reference a design. And now you don't have to repeat
exactly.
yourself. It's going to save you a ton of time and let you build faster too at the end of the day.
Yeah, and they're pretty powerful. I mean, when you start thinking about like building a structure for these and orchestrating like how they can reference different parts of the code base, like you don't have to do as much thinking. And one of the things, I mean, we talk about like uh, AI assisted coding. Like I know I get to the point sometimes where I'm like, man, what the heck? It's taking so long for this AI to write like giant components out. And meanwhile, it's like that would have taken me probably hours or days to do like by
Right.
myself. But you can even simplify, your slowest moving part, which is like typing into that chat, right? Like we don't always have to
Exactly.
tag everything and like repeat adding context and repeat all this stuff. So it's pretty powerful. The other one that is on here on the docs is user rules. And I think this is a pretty powerful one too. These are global, right? So you set these up. I'll scroll down to like the part where it talks about this, but you set these up in your actual cursor settings, right? They're
Hmm.
global preference. So you go into your cursor settings, and these can be written just in plain text. You don't have to set them up like how we did before. And basically, these are used every time that you're doing a prompt. So these are things like I would say, are more generalized. Like they shouldn't be project specific. They should be things like, give me short, concise answers, or maybe the opposite, which is like be verbose and explain the code that you're
Hmm.
doing. Um, I've tested these like a little bit. I think they apply somewhat, but not always. Like I was testing the other day where I was like, always create a checklist of what you're going to do and ask for permission. And it didn't really do it. I think they're more geared towards like preferential things like um, be short or um, ask questions before making assumptions, things like that. But I
I
think
think these ones are like more behavioral. I would probably say
right,
they're not like project specific because you wouldn't Like you're not going to put a rule in your user settings of like, um, use this special function on TypeScript things if you're like if you're working in Go, right? It's just not applicable to that. So these are like more, like I said, don't ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something 90% of the time or 90%, ask a clarifying question.
Yeah, exactly. Um, So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good reference. Like, if you guys are interested in understanding more, I would definitely go over to the Cursor website, like I just did. I screen shared with you guys and showed you that. But head over there and check out the rules. They have a great section there about how to use them. So yeah, I mean, I guess really the next thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit is what we're building, which is like what this whole YouTube channel is about, and how our tool that we're building called Precursor is going to help people actually build these rules and get these rules into their project. Because I know when I first started, it was a little bit complicated, and I didn't really know like what to put in like a rule, like what should I be telling it, right? Um,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and so maybe you can explain a little bit about like what Precursor is, why we decided to build this, and how maybe this can help people who are sort of either technical or non-technical get a better understanding of
Yeah.
what's available. And if you guys have any questions, like if you're watching and you have questions about our experience with Cursor or Precursor, what it is, or how you can get better results with Cursor rules, by all means, feel free to throw them in the chat. We're happy to answer those for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, when it comes down to Precursor, it was born from, our conversation we had earlier, where
Hmm.
giving AI coding IDEs or environments or, whatever you kind of want to call them, and this really spans so many different of these, like Claude Code and Cursor, obviously, and Copilot,
Yeah,
giving it the right context because we're really in a more bit of a fundamental shift now where we had vibe coding where it's like just kind of speak what you are thinking and just let
hmm,
AI do it and just release yourself to the vibes. But now it's like, okay, that was cool and it's great still, but we need to now have some context,
I was gonna say
and
that's so 2014, bro.
exactly. So this new wave, I don't know if people have heard about it, but it's context engineering, and it's providing the right context to these AI models or these AI
Yeah.
like coding assistants. So we with Precursor, that's what we're doing. We're helping developers, we're helping people ideate and create these structured documents so that now these documents can work alongside with their kind of coding model or coding assistant. And we're doing it in a more IDE agnostic kind of way where you can create these documents and whatever your preferences you can kind of use. And when it comes down to it, we start with a planning phase. We're going to do the product requirement document, kind of what we talked about earlier,
Hmm.
which is going to like really outline a lot of what the product's about or what your project's about. What's the app about? What's the idea? Who's your target market? All those kind of things. And then you need to have some other context in there as well too. And that's why we have like the tech architecture. And that's
Hmm.
going to give like what framework are you using? Are you using Next.js? Are you using Angular? Are you using Go? What's your deployment uh, preference? What kind of authorization do you want to use Superbase? All these different things. This is all context that we're now building these multiple documents out of, and on top of it, we're putting it in a JSON format, which
Yeah.
from some of our research works a little bit better with these AI assistants. And the last one, the MVP builder, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that one, Russell.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I like what you said. So basically, the first part, just to like recap, is product development, right? So you're building out what's the big vision for what we're building, and then we're going to talk about the tech architecture. So like, what actual tools are we putting together to build this thing? What are the styles? And then the MVP, right? every all great software starts with an MVP. It starts with a refined vision of like what is the one thing somebody can come in and do. And too frequently, like software turns into spaghetti when you try to accomplish everything at once. And so, what our MVP builder does is it really refines this larger vision into an MVP. Like, what is the one feature or the maybe two features, maybe three features that a user needs to come in and be able to do in order to have success with this app. And so our MVP builder is going to help you walk through what are the different views that you need to create. Like, are there auth screens? Are there pricing screens? And then what does the app actually do, right? So like, is it, if there's a to-do list app, right? I'm using like the most basic examples, but I think people
That's
get the
fine.
idea, right? Is like
Yeah,
your to-do list app has to have a couple screens. It has to have one that's going to show you what is the to-do list. It has to have one where you can add an item, right? It has to have some ability to delete that item. So what do those things look like? Are they modals? Are they different pages? Are they different views? Are they a window that pops open? And so our MVP builder is going to really refine that for you and show you, okay, like what exactly are you building and how are we going to build this together? And I think, one of the things I've early on in my career as a software developer, I did a lot of MVP building, like building prototypes for companies. And one of the things that a software developer once told me is like when you're building an MVP, you're basically like just putting together a project with like duct tape and magnets, right? You're just
yeah.
band-aiding things together. And at the time I just took that as like good advice. But as I've gotten better in software development, I realized that's like a horrible approach, right? Because you're just trying to like stick stuff together and like hoping, wishing, and praying that it works. And then you're
Yep.
just what you're doing actually is building up this big uh, dog poopy style, like dog poopy like
You're
tech,
building a mess for later.
yeah, like this pile of technical debt that you have to figure out later. And
Yep.
our goal is to basically negate that totally, right? With
Yeah.
Precursor, you can come in and do the whole ideation phase with an AI model, an agent actually, that's trained on like getting you the best results, right? Because that was the other thing that I noticed a lot when I was building a lot of these prototypes is as a developer, your job I think any like experienced developer starts to realize that a lot of what you do as a developer is not actually coding. It's like talking to other people, right? It's being in
Yeah.
meetings and explaining things, right? And so a lot of what I was doing in with those startups was explaining to non-technical people like what we're doing, right? And a lot of the back and forth is like, cool, like that, but I want to change this, or awesome work. Now let's add this feature, right? And so
Yep.
what this allows you to do is work with an AI agent that understands the coding process, understands, how we actually build apps and walks you through everything that you need to understand beforehand so that you can build a really high quality blueprint so that when you do actually go to start coding, you're not just like, a pile of spaghetti, like duct taping, band-aiding things together and hoping for the best.
Well, that's the thing in this day and age now, especially with AI coding. Like, I'm sorry, there's no excuse to have a non-working, really MVP. Like, with how much AI you can offload a lot of that work, but you have to give it the right context and you have to give it the right
Yeah.
structure. So, as a software engineer, you have like epics, user stories, and then they're broken down into tasks, and then you have bugs, all of these documents and all of this context that's great for software engineers. It's a little bit different with AI because you can't overload with, like you said, with the context windows, like putting in, 10 different user stories and a bunch of different epics and tasks. You have to smaller bytes, and that's what we kind of do with these JSON documents is provide that same software engineering architecture, but in a way that AI can work with it and get the right context for your project is the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last step of our process is to build these cursor rules that we're talking about today. And
Yep.
Chris and I have been working a lot on this because we feel like this is one of the things that can really make this, and I say this, I mean, make Precursor a standout application for both technical and non-technical founders, developers, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of different things that we're exploring here. And right now, what we are doing is sort of creating these default cursor rules that are being added to your file, and then also allowing AI to walk you through building custom cursor rules. So if you want something specific to happen in your project, like you're like, hey, I want never touch any backend code or always use the
Which
same
is a
UI.
real rule that we
Yeah,
actually use in one of our
yeah.
and I don't know if it was it's in one of our projects that we worked on together.
Hmm.
Like I was more responsible for the back end code. Russell was more responsible for the front end code. Well, just out of sheer respect, to Russell, I didn't want my AI agent making his front end code all dirty. So I put in a specific back end cursor rule that said, do not, under any circumstance, touch any front end code, you know, at all. And it
Yeah,
listened, so I never had to worry about it again.
yeah. It's amazing. Like it's great to be able to direct your AI on like what to do and what not to do. I just want to read in the comments. Beck said um, he or she hasn't used rules much, but they tend to write out a specification for both front end and back end, and that's awesome, right? Like that's basically what we're building with Precursor, where it's going to build out specifications for front end, back end. The MVP builder right now, we're still in beta and we're doing front end first. Then we'll be doing back end and full stack, which is connecting the two. Hi Beck.
There you go.
And but what cursor rules do is, yes, you created this specification for both front end and back end, but now imagine every time you prompt your AI model automatically knows when and where to use those specifications without you necessarily having to tag them, or you can tag them if you want. And those rules are set up for you. And as Cursor says, like you can chunk out these rules into very specific things. Like ours, I think right now we're offering 5 or 6 default rules, and uh,
Yep.
and so these rules are for different parts, like different aspects, right? Like telling it always use the technical architecture that we've detailed. But you could, in theory, create a couple like custom rules for different things that you like maybe when you're working on front end rules or front end code, you can tag like the front end only rule, and it will just say like, only edit front end code. You have to ask permission before touching any back end code, or whatever you want it to do. So, um,
And there was a hack that I was actually, I don't know if it's a hack or it's actually something cool that I was looking into the other day. You can actually, it's kind of funny, it's like Inception, but you can make a cursor rule that will help make cursor rules. So it's a little Inception,
that's
right?
pretty cool. Yeah.
So it's actually a template and a format where you can give Cursor a rule on when to suggest to make a rule and then what actually the template they should use in order to make that rule. And then have I think it was called like self-reflection. So
Mm,
it will look at your chat thread and it will try to do a sentiment analysis on whether you agreed with what Cursor was doing. And I should say
mm,
Claude or whatever model you're kind of using. We'll just say
yeah.
Cursor as a whole, right? It will use a sentiment analysis where you were like, no, don't do that. Well, then it will make a rule saying, okay, well, when I work on a TypeScript function, I shouldn't use 35 parameters, right? Something like that. But it
Yeah.
will actually automatically create that rule and it will put it in your cursor rule folder, which is kind of cool,
That's
right? So
awesome.
you're basically building this like almost fortress of guardrails for your coding experience.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you said that because I earlier today I had a conversation with somebody on, I believe it was LinkedIn, and they were talking about like what do I think is going to be the future, since now there's all these AI tools that can build apps so much faster. They're like, do you think it's just going to be like people are just pumping out apps all day? And I think the answer is yes at first, but
Yep.
then what's going to happen is there, which we're already starting to see. I think there was like this T app or something like that. I don't really know too much about it, but there was some T app that like
Mm.
was storing people's credentials in an unsecured database, and then all of their details were leaked, like their driver's
Oh.
license, yeah, all sorts of stuff.
Oh wow.
And this was a vibe coded app, right? And so this is sort of where I was going with this is I think we're going to see an explosion of new apps on the market, and then we're going to see that all of a sudden something has to change because there's going to be dangerous, vulnerabilities in terms of data leakage or intellectual property leakage, right? Like AI agents that are spilling like their system prompts or just really anything like acts, vibe coding, it's all vibes, bro. So like,
Right.
you never know
Until it's
what's
real.
until it's real. And so my
Until it's real.
response was to him was, yeah, I think we're going to see this explosion, and then I think we're going to see basically this sort of shift in vibe coding to like vibe engineering, right? Where it's like
Mm.
it's not just vibes anymore. It's like we have to actually engineer along with um, these tools like Cursor, where we're turning into more of a product manager and an oversight sort of role versus like I'm just going to sit here and code all day. Like I have to like
Right.
I can code a lot faster, but I have to watch what's happening, right, and make sure that it's happening
No,
in the
exactly.
right
You
way.
have to learn, you're gonna have to learn these fundamentals. You don't have to
Hmm.
get very deep into a lot of them, but you're gonna have to understand these fundamentals if you're wanting to build applications. You're not as technical and you have every capability of building them. But when you get to a production ready kind of instance, these are things you have to worry about. You have to worry about security, SQL injection,
Hmm.
data leaks, all these kind of things where you're now like, especially if you're charging people and you're doing different holding sensitive data, you have to be able to protect that and know how to protect that. So again, you have to make a cursor rule for security. Right?
Yeah,
It's kind of the idea. Maybe that'll be the
it's
golden standard.
exactly. I mean, it's true. I think Chris and I did a live stream a few weeks ago with Toronto Digits, and we were talking with a lot of solo founders, right? These are non-technical founders who are frustrated with things like Squarespace or Shopify, where they want to build their own vision, but these tools kind of lock them into a single workflow of like, hey, this is how auth works on our tool. This is how databases work on our tool. This is how checkout works on our tool. And so it's great because they're easy to use. They're drag and drop, but at the same time, they limit what you can do as a non-technical founder. And so I think that's one of the spaces where Precursor can really shine because we can build out, the exact thing you want to build the cursor rules that protect your app with security and different things like that. Um, and then you can use a tool like Cursor to just build anything you want, right? And you don't
Yep.
have to be technically savvy, but of course that helps because understanding what's happening when you press go on Cursor is pretty important, right? Because at the end of the day, Cursor rules are a guideline, but AI is not
Hey, as
it,
AI.
yeah, it's non-deterministic, right? It's like every
Right.
time you put a prompt in, you're going to get a slightly different result. So you as the developer sort of have to take responsibility and make sure that it's doing what you want. So I think that's sort of where we are in terms of like the future of building apps. Like we're at this really amazing point in time where anybody with a vision can turn that into reality. But I think we're going to quickly see that there has to be guardrails on that. There has to be structure to that, right? And that's
Especially if you want to take it to the next level, right? If you want to
yes,
take, if you're just trying to do a prototype, you're just trying to do an MVP. Of course, none of this is. I don't want to say none of it, but it's not as relevant, right? If you're just trying to get something to
exactly.
showcase something, that's a different story. But if you're actually trying to build a prototype or build an actual production ready application, then yes, you have to know these things. And kind of talking about the documents that we generate, like the product development, tech architecture, and MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I think I even played around, like, I think, what is it, Replit and Lovable. These are more of the
Mm-hmm.
no code, kind of style. And a
Totally.
cool thing I did, I don't know if, I think we talked about there's one-shotting a prompt, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
you just like say one thing and just kind of go.
Build me a to-do list app.
Right. But what I did was I kind of, I guess it's a zero shot prompt in a sense, right? Where
Yeah.
I just gave it I gave it the three documents and I just press enter and let it go, and it actually built like a full-fledged like login, authentication dashboard, and it hooked it up to a database and everything. So that was really cool to see. And it just kind of proves the point, if you can give enough and also the right context, you really don't even need to add much more, especially because some of those tools,
Yeah,
I would say.
one of the things that I think we should mention too, which I think is the coolest part about this, is when you did that, it wasn't like it just built an app. It built like a really beautiful modern
Yeah.
web application. And how to do that? This is one of the coolest features, in my opinion, about Precursor, is that we actually allow you to upload screenshots of like apps that you like. Like what is a style that you already like? You can just screenshot another app or a style or design that somebody has made, upload it into Precursor and be like, this is what I like. And it will build the technical architecture or style guide based on exactly that. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see Beck said something else in here too. We need
Yeah.
better prompt versioning and systems for reusing prompts similar to app builders tools for the past. It is fun. That is a very good point. Like, with these like contexts and these prompts, like being able to recreate is kind
Hmm.
of the idea. And I think me and Russell had talked about that also, like the idea of basically creating these documents that are these like templates almost, and then being able to just reuse them, like tweak them a little bit. Like if you liked everything from the framework, you liked everything from the MVP, but now
Hmm.
you want to just change the actual idea, and instead of a to-do app, you want to do an e-commerce app or something. You can just change the first document, and all that other ones are kind of, and then it'll automatically like update the rest of them, right? Or
Yeah.
it would still kind of work, is
Yeah.
the idea.
Well, I think also I sort of interpreted that a little bit different in terms of like, um, understanding like what prompts work best versus other ones. And
Mm,
what that made me think of was the other piece that we didn't really talk about, which is the user instructions that we provide when you download your folder, right? Your all of these documents. There's a new file that's added, which is user instructions, and this is really cool because what this file does is it outlines everything that you get in the folder. First of all, like what are all these files, how are they used, what you should be seeing inside of them. It gives you a bunch of information about how to practically use Cursor and get the best results out of it. But it also provides a priming prompt, which is basically a prompt that we wrote that you can take along with this folder and drop it directly into Cursor, and it's going to prime Cursor. So Cursor automatically knows what is in this folder, and then it will start building a development checklist, right? So it's going to actually build a checklist for itself. It's another like inception thing, right? Where it's like, cool, I
right.
see all this information that you provided for me. Now I'm going to figure out on my own how to accomplish that, write a detailed checklist for myself. And then the next part of this is you literally just say, like, we have a like how to prompt Cursor prompt, and it's just like a prompt that's going to say like, start with the first item and start working your way through that checklist. And you really don't even need any crazy complicated prompts, any engineered prompts, because we're handling, building this checklist, providing it with all of the necessary context, none of the extra stuff, right? That's why we use JSON, because you're not adding filler words. You're just like, AI
Right.
can digest JSON and be like, oh, I understand exactly what I need to know. And then these cursor rules keep it, they're the guardrails that keep it driving down the road of your checklist, right? So that's how I interpret your question. I think that's a really good point, is like we need better prompts, right? Especially for coding. But I think this structure actually does a better job than good prompts in a lot of ways, because we've built the whole system in this sort of like tree, this trickle down effect where we start with a priming prompt, it builds a checklist, and then it walks through that checklist with the full context of what you're building. Um, so with that, I'm excited to show you guys a little bit of what Precursor does, show you guys what it looks like inside. And if you've been watching this, if you're interested in becoming a beta tester or joining the early access waitlist to be one of the first people to be able to use this, we'd love to have you inside. We'd love to get your feedback of how you're using this, what kind of success you've had. And of course, we're open to negative feedback as well, what worked for you, but also what didn't work for you, right? Like, how
Yeah.
would you like this to be improved? Because our goal here is not to just like put out the perfect one-shot prompt of an application. We want to iterate on this and make it something that really works for people now and into the future.
We want
So
it to be useful at the end of the day. Like it's something that is good and will give amazing results, for everyone to build with and build our future of software development with.
yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, here is your first introduction to Precursor, and I have the window open. This is a demo, a demo dashboard that we have set up, like a demo user. And I already completed a project, so you guys can get to see sort of what it does. But I'm going to show you a little bit of just how it works. I don't want to walk too much through it because I honestly want you guys to play with it on your own and join the beta so that you can really give us good feedback. Like I don't want to like show you how to do it so that you just do it the way that I do, but I do want to show you like some of the magic of it. So really the first thing that you need to do is just create a new project. So I've been using this to-do list app, so we're just going to create a new to-do list app. So I'm going to click create a new app, and I'm going to give it a name, to-do list, and a description, right? And these two things are used as sort of a primer for the AI agent. It's going to help the AI agent understand what it is we're building, right? So a web app to track to-do list items for developers. And I'm going to click create project. And at this point, what's happening is in the background, this is being fed to an AI agent, and along with system prompt and some understanding of what it's going to be doing for you, it's setting up a chat thread, and then you're thrown into this development docs generator, which this is going to walk you through the steps of building out all of these development docs. And we talked about these before. You're going to go through product development, technical architecture, your MVP builder, and then of course the IDE rules at the end. And all it is you're going to basically read what it says to you, right? So it says, fantastic, I'm excited to dive into your project. Let's start by exploring the core concept. Could you tell me a bit more about what inspired you to create a to-do list app specifically for developers? What problem or opportunity are you hoping to address with this app? And then you're going to respond. So I want to create a to-do list app for developers because it's difficult to track what I should be doing and how to organize. Oh, my spelling's horrible. Organize my time on a project. Now, if you're an experienced developer, you might understand, Kanban boards or anything like that. But maybe if you're sort of brand new, you just want a to-do list. So I'm going to enter that, and then it's going to think for a minute, and it's going to respond to me. And this is really all you have to do. It's a back and forth conversation that you're going to have. And once it gets to a point where it has enough information to generate the documents for that particular phase, like product development, it's going to actually show up with a little button here that says generate document. and it's going to create that document and then move you on to the next phase. And you just work through that depending upon what you're building and how complex it is. It could be a couple, I don't know, a couple of minutes to maybe an hour or so. But that time that you're spending here is going to save you hours and hours and hours of headaches down the road, building everything else. So I'll show you also just real quick. This is an example of a completed project. So we have all of our documents on the side here. All these turn blue when they're completed, and we can view these as well. And so you can kind of see like what's inside of here. So I can click any of these. These are all the documents that we have. We have product development, tech architecture, MVP front end, and our custom IDE rule that we created for this project. And I can click into these and you'll see this is JSON, right? So it's walking through who are the users of this app, what is the actual project, um, features, user journeys, success metrics, and so forth. So Chris is telling me that this might have froze. So hopefully you guys are still seeing this, but if not, I hope you guys are interested in exploring this on your own and getting some feedback for us. Yeah, it's yeah, it's sorry. It's probably just because there's too many things going on at one time on my computer. But yeah, but basically, you get a basic idea of what this is and how this can be a powerful tool for you guys to get the most out of your AI coding experience. Yeah, Beck says it's frozen. Sorry about that. Well, but honestly, I think that's a good thing in a lot of ways because I want people to actually try this on their own and get some experience on your own of like how this works, how you can use it in your own workflow. And right now we are looking for beta testers to try this out and let us know like, your honest feedback. What do you think of this? Does it work for you? Are there features that you wish you had? Is it confusing or is it amazing? Like, is it the thing that you've just been waiting to have? Um, yeah. So with that, I mean, how can people join the beta, Chris? I have an idea. If you want to join our closed beta, number one is go and join the early access waitlist, which is just on our website, precursor.tools. And if you are interested in being part of the beta test, which is closed, it's not going to be for everybody on that waitlist. Just message either of us directly. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can put a comment in YouTube below here. We'll reach out to you. Or we're also both on Twitter. We'll put all of our information down in the description here. Just give us a DM and we'd love to have you on board. We want really good feedback from people who are interested in using this and being the first. And of course, the closed beta will be free. You don't have to pay to use this. So um, yeah. So with that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments. Beck says, I would love to take a test drive. I'm full stack AI researcher, engineer, awesome engineering professor. Yeah, we'd love to have you try it out. I think that would be amazing, Beck. So just DM us or just throw a comment below and we'll reach out to you and figure out a way we can get you on the beta list. But otherwise, if you guys have any other questions for us, I mean, we have a bunch of experience um, with using this tool and other tools. We're happy to answer those for you. But yeah, any other comments there, Chris? Anything else you wanted to discuss today? Hmm. Yeah. saying, I guess. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Chris was just saying, at the end of the day, there's not going to be one perfect set of cursor rules, and we're gonna have to play around with it a little bit as you are with these rules to get the best results. But yeah, I think that was great. We're super excited to be doing this for you every week. If you guys love AI and want to learn, more about how to use AI to build applications, Chris and I are going to be doing this live stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're always happy to take your questions and answer anything, share our experience with AI. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover, please feel free to drop in the description as well. Um, we love talking anything AI or coding in general. So with that, thank you, Chris, for hanging out. It's always a pleasure. And thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Beck, for joining us and participating. And with that, you guys have a good rest of the night, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Peace, guys. All right.